Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. We fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom.
On this episode of Cigars and Sea Stories, Bennet and Mike are sitting down with Mr. Jeremy Paris, who is a U.S. Army veteran himself. He was also a government contractor for a number of years, did work in the Veteran Artist Program for a number of years. He now is the founder and the host of Veteran Resource Podcast, which you can see it at veteranresourcepodcast.com right now, in order to help out those 20,000 veterans a month who are transitioning back into the, here's my air quotes, people, the real world. And he is lining up a variety of different resources and people who are out there who have already transitioned it. So without further ado, thank you so much, Mr. Jeremy Paris. Welcome to Cigars and Sea Stories.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be on this.
Right on. Well, cool. Are you have you familiarized yourself with the show a little bit? I mean, sometimes I ask guests.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay. So he already knows what the antics are. Yeah. All right. So get into this a little bit. You did 10 years in the Army. What was your MOS?
I was a 75 hotel. So I was personnel, usually working in Brigade S1 or Battalion S1 shop, something like that.
Oh, you fucked up all of our pay. I know.
Mostly, I didn't do pay, but I did like awards, promotions. I did ID cards, and I used to give transition briefings. And then for a number of years, when I was up in Alaska, I was the training NCO and finally got to be a soldier.
Nice.
Quote unquote soldier. Yeah.
Alaska, huh? Yeah. So where all were you stationed stateside?
I started off in the reserves for about a year and a half in Buffalo, New York. And then my reserve unit was folding, and they told me that I could stay in the reserve, stay in the reserves, but I would have to go to a different unit, which was like a good number of miles away. Or I could try to stay in that same building, but I'd have to go to a different unit and probably retrain to a different MOS, which made me like super happy because I ended up in personnel. Thanks, recruiter, and wanted to get out of that. So I was like, oh, cool, this is my opportunity. And one of the other units that was in the same building as us was the Civil Affairs Battalion, and they supported the Special Forces. They were deploying all the time, and they were doing the hua stuff that I wanted to do. So I was like, yeah, I'm in. And on my 21st birthday, they gave me my tryout, and I went out to the field with them. And I did land navigation, I did a rucksack march, I did PT qualification, pretty much everything. And at the end of the day, they were like, yeah, you passed with flying colors. So, if you want to, we'll let you in the unit. You just have to go to training and get trained up, and we'll switch your MOS. And I liked it so much that I was like, you know what? I do, but I want to do this full time. I don't want to do this in reserves anymore. I want to go active duty.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And they said, well, just so you know, almost all of the civil affairs units are all reservists. So if you go active duty, it's going to be a lot harder to get into civil affairs. And I was like, no, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing this. And so I went and I signed up to go active duty. And when I did, another recruiter said, oh, well, the way that it works is since you're already trained, we're going to put you in as personnel. But then once you get in, you wait 30 days and you go to your commander.
Oh my God.
Ow! You've all heard this, right? You ask for a 4187 and they switch you out. And I was like, oh, cool. So I went to Oklahoma, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And exactly 30 days later, I walked into the commander's office and the first sergeant was hanging out also. And I was like, sir, I need a 4187 so I could switch out my MOS to be civil affairs. And there was an eruption of laughter. And they were like, "What are you talking about?"
Oh my
And I said,
God,
"Well,
dude.
I was told that I just need a 4187 and I can switch my MOS." And again, more laughter. And they went on to tell me that I'm in a shortage MOS and I'm pretty much going to be personnel for the rest of my life.
Oh.
So, so there I was,
Oh no!
active duty,
Choke the recruiter out.
right? Right. I mean, with recruiters, I would say that 98% give the rest a bad name. And that's what the real problem is.
Man, unreal.
Oh my God. Oh,
So,
that sucks. That's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And in my whole career too, I was like my whole goal of my career was to get out of personnel. And I was really good at it, but I didn't see that. I just wanted to, like when I went in the Army, I went in because I wanted to be like crawling through the jungles and, doing the soldier stuff that you see on TV. And we did that, but we didn't primarily we were sitting in a cubicle.
Right.
So
Ugh.
yeah, I left Oklahoma after a couple of years and went to Alaska, Fort Richardson, spent 3 years there, came down to Maryland, Fort Meade, Maryland, and got out there. And I've been here in Maryland ever since.
Jesus. The big green weenie like that. And then 10 years
That's what I was
in
gonna.
service.
That's what I was gonna ask you if you were at Wainwright or at Richardson.
Really? Richardson. Yeah. Well, I spent time at all three. We were a battalion or a detachment in Fort Richardson. And then the battalion was up at Wainwright. So went there a few times and then spent a couple weeks in Greeley also doing the infantry cold weather course, which I talked them into letting me go to.
So did you like Alaska?
I absolutely loved Alaska. I've been to.
See, that's awesome. We hear that. We hear that a lot. We have another buddy of ours that loved it up there too. So,
and here's the thing too. I hate the cold.
Oh yeah.
I really loved Alaska.
I've heard people say that before. See, I don't like the cold either, but I think that it's more tied to the actual weather itself, not so much that it's cold out. Because
yeah, I think you're right.
Because I mean, you guys are both in upstate New York. I was originally from Michigan, and so we're used to that lake effect and the slate gray that moves in right around now and doesn't leave until I don't know.
Nasty.
Fucking June is when it finally blows off. You're like, dude, this place sucks. So
Jeremy, where are you from in upstate New York?
I'm from Buffalo, right all around Buffalo, North Buffalo, South Buffalo, West Seneca, Cheektowaga.
I'm in Syracuse right now. I live in Syracuse, and then I actually work at Canandaigua, so I'm not that far from Buffalo.
Oh wow, yeah, and it's probably what do you got, a foot of snow already?
No. Actually, what's crazy, you're so right though. but at the actually so far this winter, or well, because it's winter from like June, September on here. But although the high today is only like 50, but the sun's out, so can't be all the bad.
Yeah.
So after Alaska, you wound up doing Meade, but then you're in Maryland now, right?
Correct.
So where in Maryland are you?
I'm living in Annapolis right now.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah, I
was just there a few months ago. Well, I lived in Dover until like this summer. So I used to go over. I had friends that lived in Annapolis, and he was an instructor at the Naval Academy. So I used to go over there, and Annapolis is awesome. I love it.
Oh, it sure is.
So
it's got everything.
Everything. So.
You got tired of getting screwed over by the Army, so then you went over to the Academy.
Let's go chill out in the Navy area.
What's funny too is that I spent my whole career trying to get out of personnel. I even tried out for Special Forces, went to the SFAS, the assessment and selection, and ended up getting hurt 2 weeks out of the 3 weeks of that. And then Alaska, I was at the tail end of Alaska when I did that. And so they didn't have an assignment for me because they were planning that I would go to SFAS and then I would go off and train
off to the Q course forces. And the whole thing. And
exactly. And so when I came back, they were like, okay, we got to stick you somewhere. How about Fort Meade? And I was like, all right, sure. Let's do that. And then I ended up getting out of the military because I was so done with being in the cubicle. And I immediately get a job in computer support, supporting the Department of Defense in a cubicle.
Oh, man. Who'd you work for at Fort Meade?
I was in the 704th MI Brigade.
Okay. I have another friend. I have still a lot of friends in the Army. He's with the Asymmetrical Warfare Group out of Meade there.
Oh,
I don't know
nice.
if you know where that's at. So, yeah. But Meade, man, that's
some NSA shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of restricted areas on that.
They're
base,
listening
man.
right now. By the way,
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
Sure they're.
they beep
I'm sure.
in. It's no big whoop. They listen to the
Beep,
show all the time. It's purely for
Exactly.
entertainment purposes. There's nothing to collect here. I mean,
Oh man.
Yeah, they don't even record when they're listening.
yeah.
Right. Exactly. They just listen.
Why
Oh, we
bother?
can
It's
hear
going to
them
be on
laughing every
Libsyn
once
in
in
the
a
next little while, anyhow.
Exactly. So, tell us about your podcast, man. I'm excited to hear about it just because it's right down the alley of like my passion project type thing. So,
Oh, nice.
give us a rundown, man.
All right. So the origin story, I was working with the Veteran Artist Program, and they are an awesome nonprofit that's helping veterans who are also artists of all different types, whether it's like sculpting or painting or acting or dance, whatever. They help to propel them into the mainstream art community. And so I was on the staff helping out there. And we went to an event in DC. It was the National Geographic Channel was having their American War Generals premiere. And so this was one of those red carpet events. And we were one of the sponsors. And so I got to go to this great event. And while I'm there, I'm shaking hands with all of these different people. And they're like, hi, I'm so-and-so from The Mission Continues. And I'm so-and-so from, Team Red, White, and Blue and Team Rubicon and Got Your Six and all of these different organizations. And I went to B.R. McDonald. He's the director of the Veteran Artist Program. I went to him about halfway through the night, and I was like, this is incredible how many veteran nonprofits there are. And he starts laughing. He goes, this is nothing. There's thousands of them, tens of thousands of them. And I was like, what? No way. And so I started doing some research. Sure enough, there's tens of thousands of
Sounds
these
like
veteran
me, Mike.
Right.
Sounds just like me, right, Mike?
What?
No,
way.
funny.
Yeah.
Wait, no way. Wait a
So-
minute.
Yeah, wait a second. Oh my God, there are. So after learning this, it was like that aha moment where I was like, I was in the Army for 10 years. And then for the next 10, 15 years, I've been supporting the Department of Defense. So I've been surrounded by military for like 25 years. And I knew about a handful of these organizations. And so I was thinking, if I don't know about them, then most of the other veterans out there probably don't know about these organizations either. And so I need to get the word out. And so I decided right there that I was going to find a way to try to spread the word and get the word out about these organizations. And at the time, I was listening to tons of podcasts, John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneur on Fire, and Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn, and all these different, real popular podcasts. And I was like, oh, well, podcasting is up and coming. This is going to take off. Maybe I should focus on podcasting. And so right there, I made the decision. I'm going to have a podcast where I'm interviewing all these nonprofits, and then veterans could listen. They could find out about them. Now I just need to learn how to podcast.
Right.
And,
Hey. Oh yeah,
Gulp.
been there, done that.
yeah, I got the idea. Now I just need to learn how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So awesome.
Oh God.
It sounds like they make it sound so easy, but I guess it really is. But it's just if you're not in the space, you're like, oh my God, seriously? Like because then you start getting into the technical jargon and all that, and you're just like, oh my God.
Well,
absolutely.
One of the biggest hurdles that I encountered for us specifically was, and it's not even so much that it was a difficult process, it took a little bit of poking around, and that's just getting on iTunes, which is very important. I'm glad that we did it. It's a little bit of a process in the beginning. No big whoop.
No big whoop, especially if you don't know what you're doing. It's
right.
Kind of like, yeah.
But it can be, but the reason why I bring it up that way, though, and this has got to be intentional by Apple. I mean, Christ, if I was doing it, I would make it intentional. There's got to be a barrier to entry. Like, do you really want it? Or is it just going to be more useless stuff that goes up on the internet? You know, and so there's that little bit of, hey, make sure that you fill out every box. And, oh, by the way, it matters that you know what an RSS feed is. You know, and stuff like that. I always knew what an RSS feed was, but I didn't understand where the hell it came from, what it did really. Like, I just, it's an RSS, and you can subscribe that way. But I have no idea the internal usage of it. I mean, there were just little barriers to entry. You know?
Yeah, and I had a kind of a step up there because I was already doing web development for probably 5-10 years, and so I was able to build out my own website and able to do a lot of the things that other people hire people to do. I was able to do all of those myself, and then I got plugged into Podcasters Paradise, which is John Lee Dumas's thing, and that was my big win right there. Was, I mean, I had already read some books on how to podcast. I'd watched some videos. I took some Udemy courses, but I still didn't have the confidence to go and do it yet. And when I finally just bit the bullet and spent the boatload of money to sign up for Podcasters Paradise, it was so easy because not only do they have like the courses, but they've got the Facebook group that goes along with it. And you're talking about thousands of other podcasters that are your peers in there that you're able to kind of plan for the stuff that you don't know about yet. So before you even launch, because you don't know what's going to happen after you launch, but you can talk to people who just launched this week or who launched last month or who launched a year ago, and you can get all of the information, and that really helps. And I mean, for me, Veteran Resource Podcast, 2 days after I launched, went to #1 in new and noteworthy for governments and organizations category. And it stayed there for the full 8 weeks that you were at the time allowed to be in new and noteworthy. And that was because I had the backing of the group where I can ask the questions, hey, what is it I need to be concentrating on, and things like that. And it kind of like when you're in the military, when you don't know how to do something, you've got all of your peers around, and you can really spin your wheels trying to figure it out for yourself, or you could just go to your peers and say, hey, I'm kind of dumb here. What am I doing? Mm-hmm. And they can, you know, show you the way.
That's one of the things that I like about the idea, like that John Lee's got that program, and there's a couple other, like Cliff's Ravenscroft and a couple other guys have some really good podcasting programs, right? But I kind of look at it as if we veteranize this, you know, it's kind of like having that peer support guy or that mentor that helps you with your transition. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's an invaluable tool to have something like that. And, you know, because we didn't do that. And, you know, I wouldn't say we had a rough go of it. We just have a lot of fun, but we didn't get the notoriety right off the bat that we really wanted. Because we didn't have the mentorship. We didn't have I mean, I mean, you know exactly what I'm saying.
Right. Right.
So now I really think like we're hitting our stride, but, it's, yeah, man, that's awesome. And John Lee Dumas I've looked at it a million times. I just never pulled the trigger. Part of it was money and, you know, whatnot. But as a veteran doing great things in the podcasting world, you know, he helps a lot of guys. So.
Yeah. And he's a former Army officer too.
Yeah, correct. And we've actually, we had talked to him a while back, right? about him coming on the show, and I thought that we had it worked out, but you know how that goes. It's just people get busy and whatnot.
So we reached out to him a few different times. We had an email exchange with him and then a few of his different folks from High Speed Low Drag as well, because we were going to have on.
Oh yeah, Tom Marcus.
Yeah, and then Antonio Centano.
Yeah,
is that what it is?
So.
Yeah. Which I'm a member of his LinkedIn group and a few of those other things, Real Men, Real Style, and stuff.
He's
like
a
that.
Marine too.
Yeah,
he's a Marine.
Nice.
So yeah.
So
yeah, man.
Well, and I think that it's interesting also because with Veteran Resource Podcast, what perked my ears to that is I understand that we've got a lot of nonprofits that are out there, but how do you make it not transition assistance program? You know what I mean? How do you liven up that experience?
Yeah. Well, what's amazing to me is when people think about, like veteran nonprofits, they're thinking like VFW, American Legion, or something like that, which are doing great things. But every organization out there is so different in what they have to offer and how they work. And because each one is their own, company. So they're able to do whatever they want with it. And you've got people like Sean Gobin, who started Warrior Hike to help walk off the war. And, he's taking people walking on the Pacific Crest Trail or the Appalachian Trail for 6 months at a time. And I mean, that's what they do as an organization. Now, who would think like, I'm getting out of the military, I'm going to go find an organization that can help me, hike across the country. Nobody is thinking that there's anything out there that's remotely like that.
I mean, the only thing that's sort of like that they think might exist or that they may have heard of is like Outward Bound. Like Outward Bound has a veterans program. But again, a lot of people don't even know about it. And
exactly,
yeah, man. So you and I need to get offline together because my entire world revolves around veteran nonprofit. Just so you know.
Oh, cool.
Besides that, I work for the VA as well. But I'm not one of the bad guys. I'm one of the good guys, I promise.
That's what they all say.
Yeah. So I have my own veteran nonprofit. I'm one of those tens of thousands.
Nice.
But we also we've also just on this show alone, I can't even think, probably at least a dozen nonprofits, Mike, that we've interviewed.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
And so we have to cross-pollinate. We got to get this show on the road.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
And so the next question that I have for you though is coolest interview you've done on your podcast, in your opinion.
Ooh, coolest interview.
Like with the coolest guy, like the guy or the charity or whatever, the resource that you think is, adding the best, that's just kind of like cool. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I love what Team Red, White, and Blue is doing. Blaine Smith was on the show, and I actually helped him to start up Eagle Nation podcast, and his podcast is really taken off. But his interview, I love what the organization is doing. They're in over 100 locations around the country, and it's not just veterans. They're bringing veterans and civilians together in the community to help build a stronger community, and they're doing it through athletics. So one day, I belong to the Team Red, White, and Blue here in Annapolis, and some days they'll do a stand-up paddleboard where you could just go and show up and you can stand up paddleboard with these guys, or they'll have rock climbing, or they do runs every Wednesday. They'll do walks from the Veteran Center. They'll do different community activities and help out in the community. It's just, instead of saying, let's segregate veterans and we're going to help, our organization is only bringing in veterans. I love that they're including civilians in that as well.
Yeah, that is awesome. What about the 6th Branch? Have you ever heard of them or done any work with them? Out of Baltimore?
Yeah, I actually have worked with them many times. I got a picture of me drawing for Martin Luther King Day. They did a day of service, and so for the people who are out there who are saying, "Who is the Sixth Branch?" Let me start there. It's an organization in Baltimore that went in there and they kind of said, "We're veterans, but we don't really need help. We want to help because as veterans, one of the core values that we have is to serve. I mean, it's hard to be a veteran and not have that feeling that you want to serve other people. That's what you've been doing your whole career. So they get out of the military and now they've got this chance to serve again, serving the community. So they went into this community that was really, really struggling in Baltimore. There was a lot of crime. There was
not very nice.
Huge
not very
poverty.
Nice at all.
Yeah, it was actually where like The Wire was filmed, and it was
it's in East Baltimore,
burned out
right?
buildings. Yes.
Yeah.
And they went in there and they said, we're coming to help. We're gonna clean up the area and stuff, but we're not leaving. We're gonna stay here, and we're just gonna keep making this better and better and better. Instead of going in there for a day and cleaning up and saying, "All right, we kicked ass. See you guys later," and then let it all kind of crumble on itself again. They put roots there, and they're there every single day working.
Well, a lot of the guys live there too, don't they?
Yep. A lot of them moved in there. A lot of the community members came and joined the Sixth Branch who weren't even veterans. They're just, everybody's helping, and they built a huge urban garden.
I helped build that.
Did you?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, man. So that's one of the reasons I bring him up, because, and also that Dave Landymore is he's a Marine. So I've been trying to get him on the show, but he's a busy man.
He is.
And I've talked to him. I've talked to him a few separate times, and met him a couple different times. And that urban garden project is the bomb, man. They're doing great things there. Yeah, I brought my kids down. This is when we lived in Delaware. So I brought my wife and my kids over. We went over there 2 or 3 times and helped get rid of all the old crap and plant and get the hoop house going. And yeah, man, it's a good thing. I was just wondering, because I know that, being where you're at and where they're at, I'm pretty sure you've had some cross pollination. That's why I was bringing it up. So.
Oh yeah. Well, the Veteran Artist Program back in 2009 started at the same time and with the same people as the Sixth Branch.
Oh,
so
crazy.
They pretty much started the two of them together.
Small world, man.
Yeah. And so I kind of grew up next to them. It was the sister company.
All right. Sweet.
So this is interesting also. I saw the Veteran Artist Program. So this is folks within the entertainment industry, could be one of them, as far as like singer, songwriter, musicians, artists, as far as actors are concerned as well, all of that, but on a broader spectrum as well, right? Exactly. And there might be like exhibits going on, or like we did a huge exhibit for the Pentagon where we had 50 works of art from all around the country that was shown in the lobby at the Pentagon for over a year. And then that same artwork went to a couple other places. We've done stuff at the Smithsonian, the Corcoran Art Museum when that was a thing. Right. And also doing things like the Lincoln Center in New York City. And we worked with the Telling Project, producing a lot of those, doing commercials for Starbucks with a veteran film crew. Oh, cool. So like all kinds of different things that they're able to help veterans to break into some of these fields where they might not otherwise be able to.
So did you guys do any work with arts in the armed forces?
I'm not sure if we did.
Do you know what I'm talking about, though?
Yes.
It's Adam Driver's thing that he's got going. in New York City.
Adam's wife was in the show at the Lincoln Center, I believe.
That's funny. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm going to that show November 7th in New York.
Oh, cool.
Because I'm trying to accost Mr. Driver to be a interviewee on the show since he is a Marine.
Very nice.
And yeah, so that's kind of funny. Oh man.
And then try not to talk Star Wars the whole time.
Right. No, I can't do it. I mean, I like Star Wars, but I'm not like a Star Wars. I'm not one of those guys. You know what I mean? So, but I like it, but still. Anyway, man. Yeah, we could just, you could talk about this stuff all day, but,
so real quick, as we go to start to wrap things up, where can people find the podcast, your show, a lot of these other different links that you got for the audience?
You can go to veteranresourcepodcast.com, and from there you can find the links to Facebook and Twitter and everything like that. I'm also moving because I broke it into seasons, and season 3 I was supposed to have already started. I'm sorry, everybody. I haven't started it yet. And the reason is that I'm going to 5 days a week, 5 episodes a week. I'm going to be releasing a podcast. Yeah, it's going to hurt.
I told him he was fucking nuts. I mean,
right. That is pretty nuts.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, I've got this podcast going on, and I also started Podcast Playground, which is the first podcast network made just for kids, and the hosts are all kids. And so we've got 2 podcasts going on with that. Why
is it that we just can't? One's not enough.
Right.
Because now Mike is going to start another podcast more than likely. I'm not going to get into that because that's that's his thing. But is that still a possibility, Michael?
Oh, it's happening. Yeah. The Bunker Labs.
Yeah. So
podcast.
I have, right. And then I have another podcast called Change Your POV with another Army veteran.
Oh, cool.
And then I've been thinking about it like I have all this time, right? You know?
Right.
Right. So, because I have 4 kids,
wow.
and I'm married, and we have the dog and the whole thing. But we have a nickname from our family and friends. They call us the Tanton Family Circus. So we were thinking about starting a podcast called the Tanton Family Circus, and
that would be
great. What I mean. And doing, basically just, it's kind of like a window in on our lives to an extent and what we do, and products that we like to buy and what the kids are doing. And, my one daughter's like a fanatic about soccer. So she wants to talk about soccer, and, it's crazy, but it's cool. So the fact that you're doing a podcast about kids is very intriguing, and how that we're with kids and how that all works out. So again, you and I definitely need to get together offline, and chat about some things because, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But the reason I'm able to do that, and you might be in the same boat, is, I've got help. I've got Kate, who co-founded Podcast Playground with me. And she is able to write scripts. She's able to wrangle the kids. She's able to, do the graphics, and I can focus on doing the editing and things like that. So
yeah, you definitely, it's so much better when you have a team, when you got a partner. Because Penny, there's no way Penny's doing this without me, and vice versa. No. You know what I mean? So yeah, man.
I could not do this alone, dude. I was thinking about that the other day because it's funny. Everybody gets into their own battle rhythm, and ours is I handle a lot of the Libsyn on the RSS side. It goes out to the aggregators, and then he handles the featured image and all the post SEO and all of this other stuff. And I'm like, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'm like, if I think about the Libsyn stuff, it gives me heartburn.
I don't think he's ever. He knows the dashboard.
Focus on what you're good at.
Right.
Yeah, I know the dashboard, but I think you walked me through actually posting an episode one time with that whole thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I'm never doing this again. So you can't. so you can't. So nothing can happen to you. But then the other side of it, he'll write it, but then I'll totally rewrite his show notes.
Yeah.
So they match up SEO, and then I do the fancy picture for the post, and it all works out well.
It's a lot of work for sure.
God, man.
And we've got for Toothy Trivia, we've got 2 episodes coming out every single day. So 16. We're working on like 16 episodes at a time in blocks so that we have a little bit of a buildup. And now, luckily, they're only 3 minutes a piece for those ones because the idea is that kids can brush their teeth for 2 minutes while listening to Emma, give trivia.
That's pretty amazing concept, though. Good stuff. I like it.
Yeah, thanks.
Solid.
That is solid.
Yeah, a lot of work for everybody.
Think of what we could do with Liam, Michael.
My youngest,
Liam's World or something. Oh my God, that'd be hysterical.
Little Liam Lionhead.
Anyway.
Either way, that's cool. No, I tell you what, man. I legitimately
doing good things, brother.
Oh, we're stepping on each other because our Skype connection. No, I'm legitimately looking forward to having. I have 3 kids with 1 on the way right now, and so I can't wait to have my little ones listen to this podcast. And it's like, oh, hey, cool, yeah. Well, Dad has one of these, but you can't listen to it. Like, why not? Because he says fuck on it all the time. But that's not what I'm going to say to him. You know what I mean? So we all add value in our own ways. Toothy Trivia is a great idea, man. It's a great concept. The whole podcast playground and getting the younger generation on board, I commend you. Thank you. I applaud you for it. Because those are our future listeners. Them up for
success, man.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to be the make or break for whether or not podcasting continues in the future. Is right now you've got everybody who's remotely our age who are listening and consuming podcasts. There's definitely not a whole lot of kids consuming them because there's only a handful of podcasts out there for kids. But when it comes time that those kids are grown up, if they have never been around podcasts, who's to say that they're going to gravitate toward them just out of nowhere? Whereas if they were listening to him the whole time growing up, they'll just fall right in line listening to the other podcasts.
Well, because terrestrial radio is going to die at some point. Yeah, it's just too. It's just this is the wave of the future, and the big thing is, and I'm sure you see this as well, that if you can integrate the podcast and YouTube or Vimeo, one of those type of things. You open up the whole world, especially with kids, because kids really like to absorb the content off of YouTube or at least in video. So if you can video and podcast simultaneously, like friends of ours do that are on Unity Radio, the funniest thing with Daryl and Ed, they do I guess you would call it a simulcast, right? But you can watch anything that they do on podcasting. There's a whole bunch of people that do that, but they have both. So you're not stuck. See, a lot of them, you're stuck watching one or listening. You're either stuck watching or you're stuck listening. Right. Not a lot of them you can do both. You know what I mean? So that to me is really where the future's going with this, is to have the ability to have both, and especially with kids, if you think about it. So,
hell yeah,
man. It's just my 2 cents.
Jeremy Paris, as we wrap up one last time, what are your links again for our listeners?
All right. You can go to veteranresourcepodcast.com, or we also mentioned Podcast Playground, so you can go to podcastplayground.com if you have children.
Nice. Look at that. Thinking of everything. We'll have
you're on all the social media, Facebook. Is that it, or do you do like Twitter?
I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and every once in a while I'll say, I'm gonna start doing Instagram, and I do it for like a day,
yes,
and then a month later I try it again.
We'll post like 5 pictures and then we're done.
Yeah, exactly. And LinkedIn, I'm starting to get into a little bit more too. I'm gonna learn myself some LinkedIn.
There you go. Good call. That'll help.
Yeah, we have again when we get together offline here, I'll give you a guy who's really good with LinkedIn. He can point you in the right direction too.
That's how this works.
Oh, cool.
So
he's a veteran.
That's that's how this works, listeners. You subscribe, rate, review, you reach out, you say, hey, I want to come on the show. I got something to share, which will add value to the listeners, what have you. And then we're all interconnected, and we just we hook each other up. We get each other into the network. Come be a part of the show. You know what I mean? Subscribe now. You know? It's that simple.
Yeah.
Anyway. I shamelessly plug and just do whatever I can, so I'm pretty much that guy. Dude, thank you so much, sincerely. I really appreciate it, especially with the children-oriented podcast. This is fantastic, looking out for future generations. I commend you on your work. Thank you so much for adding value to the world. We look forward to having you on future episodes.
Sweet. Thank you so much for having me. I had a ton of fun, and this was probably the most conversational and the easiest podcast that I've ever been on.
Nice. Like hearing
Good.
that.
Glad to hear it. Like hearing that.
Like hearing that from the folks we're interviewing. Hey, listeners, give us your comments. You can rate us now on iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM, pretty much anywhere you enjoy listening to Cigars and Sea Story. Huge thank you to our network, Heroes Media Group, Mr. Adam Bird's network over there. Adam, you rock, Heroes Media Group. We love all of you. Check out their lineup of shows. And veteranslist.us, you can get a featured membership on there right now for 50% off when you enter in discount code Cigars and Sea. Again, that's discount code Cigars and Sea. You, the business owner, get 50% off by entering that mother trucker. Check out a featured membership on veteranslist.us. Jeremy Paris, you're a scholar and a gentleman, sir. Continue doing what you're doing. Bennet Tanton, I don't know.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, that's something. We'll see. We'll see you soon.
See you guys.
And on that note, we cue the music.